Welcome back to season 3 of the podcast. I'm so excited for this season. I have a lot of juicy content I want to get into with you. And most of my guests that I am interviewing this season are actually podcasters themselves. So we're going to get a lot of detail of the process and the mindset behind all of it. So I have questions that I will be asking guests with podcasts. And I thought, what better way than this first episode than to meet to answer them, because I have a podcast. I'm a podcast manager, so I've seen other people go through recording their own podcast. So let's get into it. So usually I ask them to tell us about their business and how their podcast ties into their business. So I started my podcast because most of my clients listen to podcasts because they want to start a podcast. So I thought that was a great way to reach new clients so they could see, hey, I'm doing it too. I know what goes into it. I'm not just telling you what to do. I'm actually experiencing it and doing it myself. So I wanted to have that experience and to do it myself so I know how my clients feel. I know what they're going through and I can kind of get inside their head. The process of setting up my podcast, I usually ask my guests, or I'm going to be asking my guests in future episodes, if they DIY'd their podcast. And of course, I did. I set it all up myself, but I had experience because I've already set up podcasts before for clients. So I wasn't just jumping into it without knowing anything. But I learned from taking a podcast manager course. I learned how to set up podcasts. I learned how to launch them. I went through a whole course. So it's not like I didn't know what I was doing and Googling everything, but having the experience, it was a lot easier to start my own. So my biggest fear around starting my podcast, I think my biggest fear still is, what if nobody's listening? Like, what if I'm just doing this for nothing? I know people are listening. I've gotten comments that people are listening and what their biggest takeaways are and things, but it's still scary and you don't see those numbers going up like you want them to. My download numbers are nowhere near where I would love them to be, but I know it's a long haul game that I need to stay in it for the long haul and keep going. So I'm going to keep doing it. I enjoy doing it. I mean, I found this amazing studio. If you're watching on video, which if you didn't know, I do video record my podcast. You can go over to my YouTube channel and check it out. I'll put that in the show notes. But I found this amazing soundproof studio at the library. So I come here and I just record and I get away from the house, which is awesome. And I just really like coming here and just talking and connecting with my listeners. So I guess my fear is just now, I don't even know if I really have a fear now. Like, even if I'm just reach one person, it's worth it to me. So yeah, just, everybody's afraid of saying the wrong thing and stuff. But if you're just yourself, like, you'll be fine. Just be yourself. The next question I would ask is, how do you keep up with being consistent with your podcast? Okay. So if anybody knows me, I am a planner. I am organized. I love planning. I love organizing. I love being on top of things. So since I have to go to the library now to keep up with my podcast, I schedule days and I schedule them way in advance. So every time I come to the library, I book 2 more sessions for the next month. So I'm trying to go twice a month just to keep up with it. So that's how I'm staying consistent. I pick those days. So pick a day or 2 days a month that you're going to record and keep up with your podcast. You have to put it in your schedule. Like, that's the only way to keep up with it. So the structure of my podcast. So obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you kind of know the structure. And there's different structures you can do for each episode. Some people have a formal intro. So it's the same intro every time you start to listen to the podcast. The music starts playing, you know it's that podcast, which I really like. I like the familiarity that I'm listening to that podcast. I know which one I picked. Some people like to do a new intro every single time. That's a lot of work. I do an intro for my guest, so there's that extra thing, but I like to do the bio and stuff separate from my guests, so my guests aren't sitting there listening to the bio of them, which is kind of weird if you're just sitting there listening. So I kind of do the formal intro, my guest intro if I have one, the episode. I usually will stick an ad in the middle. So if you have a product, a service, a program, coaching, whatever you have, put an ad in the middle of your episode, especially if it's a long episode. It's really good to break up the episode. And then for the outro, I feel like once the outro music starts playing, people stop listening, like they turn it off. Like, I know I do. I'll be completely honest. The outro music starts playing and I'm done with the episode. So I've decided not to do an outro this year, and it's just music. You'll just hear music over the end of my episode because yeah, like I just turned it off. It's a waste for me to record an outro. So I really suggest maybe not recording an outro and just doing music and making sure you're saying at the end of your episode, your call to action and what you want the listeners to do next. So growing your podcast. How am I growing my podcast? Well, I'm video recording it now. I definitely suggest video recording it. Spotify supports video, YouTube supports video. So definitely video record it. If you have your podcast on Anchor, you can actually upload the video and it will still release it as audio on podcast platforms, but video wherever it takes video podcasts. And I think Apple might start too doing video podcasts. I'm not sure if that's happening by the time this recording is coming out, but definitely video. I'm growing it, but just promoting it more, promoting it, making it what I want, making sure I'm having the guests that I want on it, and just having fun, having fun with it. This is a side project for my business. It's another marketing tool for my business. And I just want to have fun with it, because when you stop having fun, you're not going to want to do it anymore. So just keep talking about what you want to talk about, have the people on that you want to talk to, and just have fun. So the future of my podcast. Wow. So the future is I just want to keep growing. I just want to keep talking about what I wanted to keep talking about, keep evolving as I go. I feel like each season, this is season 3, and each season has kind of changed as I've grown. So just keep evolving and growing and having fun and getting my message out, and hopefully reaching people who want to start their own podcast or have a podcast and need tips. Just keep reaching them and helping people and getting their message out. Like, that's really what I want for my podcast. And a goal that I have for my podcast. Ooh, wow, a goal. Oh, we all want to be on the charts. We all want to have the big downloads and sponsors and stuff. I would love to have a sponsor one day and to see how that is from a podcaster standpoint. I haven't really dealt with that a lot with my clients. I do edit ads for some of my clients, but I'm not really involved in getting the sponsors or anything yet. I am taking a course on that though, so that is something that I really want to do, and I will have an episode coming up on that more once I finish the course. So yeah, just learning how to get sponsorships and ads on, and maybe the goal is to maybe make a little bit of money from my podcast eventually. My number one tip for podcasters: just have fun. Like, really, really. I know I said it before already early in this episode, but like, this is your podcast. You don't have to do things the way everybody else has done them. Just do what you want to do. Have fun with this, talk about what you want to talk about. You can have different guests on. They don't have to be super in your niche, whatever people want to say. Just have fun. Be yourself. Relax. Maybe if you're nervous beforehand, do some dancing, get some music going, move your body. That helps relax you. Just enjoy the process, because I feel if we feel like it's just an extra thing that we have to do, it's going to come across in the way that we speak, in the way that people hear our voice. Like, we feel, oh, hello, I'm back again. You know what I mean? Like, enjoy it. Like, and if you're finding you're not enjoying it, then maybe take a break. Take a break. It's not the time to podcast for you. You don't want it to just be another thing on your plate that you feel you have to do. Like, it's a great marketing tool. I think it's great for businesses, but it's not great if it's bringing you down. It's the same with anything. Anything's not great if it's bringing you down. So that's my number one tip. So this is a very short and sweet first episode of season 3. I hope that these questions helped you get to know me a little bit more and my podcast a little bit more. I'm going to be interviewing tons of people who have podcasts this season to help you get to know a little bit more behind the podcasting process. I do have a few other people sprinkled in there that you'll get to talk to too, that have other topics related to podcasting. So I will talk with you next week. Make sure that if you are enjoying this, you go rate and review, because that is how you get seen in search results. So please, I would love a 5-star review and a 5-star rating, and a good review would be awesome. And thank you so much for listening. It means the world to me that you are listening and connecting with me on Instagram. I'm over there a lot, and I'm on TikTok too. In case you didn't know, I'm at the Podcast Solution on TikTok. So come hang out with me, and I will talk to you all next week.